welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
If you don't say we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle as to strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a life. The president never gave me any deadline.
Hello, thank you everyone for joining us again today on Global Morning. Words fail us to say thank you for the time you invest with us here on this program, and of course across all of our programs here on Global Television. This is Abuja, the capital city of Nigeria, and we are Mofwegwe saying we are super delighted knowing you'll be spending the next 3 hours or so with us here on the program today, and we assure you will get a return on that investment of your time. My colleague Emeko Anko is also here to help add value to this program.
Good morning and many thanks, dear viewers, for joining us on the show today. What a great way to begin your day, looking at today being the 5th day of the month of February 2025. The days are counting, expectations are still high. People are also looking at the part of government and also expanding concern towards the world, looking at how the world is really the trade war, you may call it, because from the US to Canada and Mexico. So it looks a very more, a time where we must pay attention to looking at, can we begin to look at our country? If other countries are saying, look, America first. Canada said we're also prioritizing ourselves with the policies and and the trade policies and tariff. Can Nigeria also look at developing Nigeria? Can Africa also look at developing Africa, because it's also a time for us to begin to also prioritize our country. But the question is, do we have the capacity to begin that conversation and to sustain that?
There are two things said. Let me react to the first one, which is on a lighter note, and it's a Nigerian kind of factor. When you said the days are counting, people have always said January is very slow, January is economically difficult, blah blah blah. You see, God has been kind to us. This is the 5th day in February, so it's as if there was never a January. All right, so we are making progress on that front. But to talk about the trade war of Donald Trump, first of all, let's establish that anybody who says they're surprised at this kind of war, so to speak, we use that word as I said it, by the way, probably didn't see Donald Trump between 2017 and 2021, because this is Trump 2.0, as I've always said, right? So it's an upgrade of the Trump you saw the last 4 years of his first tenure. Now, that said, you mentioned the word capacity. Former River State Governor and now Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike, is popular for that term. Capacity, you need to have capacity. One time he told Obaseki, former governor of Edo State, that if you know you have capacity, you come and do in River State what I intend to do in Edo State. But that's local politics. But let's take it to the global stage. You see, you've talked about how that Canada is retaliating. Now, operative word, retaliating. Mexico is retaliating. China is more than ready to retaliate. That's the second largest economy on earth today. And then you come back home and say, what is our country going to do to either retaliate or measure or at least respond, as they say in international diplomacy? But how do you retaliate when you are not even so sure yet if you have the capacity and the resources to do that? You see, the world is more like a dance stage, politically speaking, diplomatically speaking, and in terms of trade, no exception. Therefore, if you want to come dance in a manner of speaking, what dancing skill are you bringing? What dancing steps are you going to bring? Are you going to dance like the late Michael Jackson, the pop legend? Or are you going to do 1-2 steps like former US President Barack Obama? So, that said, we need to begin to ask ourselves, how are we doing internally? Look at our GDP, what has been the trajectory last 10 years? You have to think about that. Canada just revoked a contract that they had entered into with Starlink. By the way, Starlink belongs to Elon Musk, who is a staunch supporter of Donald Trump. Why could they do that? Because they have the capacity to. Someone who's the equivalent of a governor in Canada, what they call a province, just said, look, we are revoking all of those contracts we entered with US firms on account of this trade war that Donald Trump has started. Of course, let's also be clear, in fairness to Donald Trump and his government, the US has said we're giving these countries 1 month moratorium of some kind to
review.
set their, exactly, and set their house in order. However, after this 1 month period cycles out, we are going to double down and go full throttle with our trade war policy. But you see, some people have argued that Donald Trump is living in denial because the bulk of trade happens between the U.S. and Mexico on the one hand, and then the U.S. and Canada on the other hand. Now, that said, the point or the question now should be, what will be the repercussion or the blowback for the U.S.? There will be a lot. People have said that if Donald Trump goes ahead, of course, that's going to happen anyway, no matter how we look at it on the program this morning, to impose these tariffs has already threatened, and that is not an empty threat. It means that the cost implication will ultimately land on the laps of the end consumer in the United States. Because let's be clear, Donald Trump is not saying China cannot bring their Chinese goods or Mexico and Canada cannot do the same. He's saying that, look, we're going to up the ante in terms of the tariff margin. And these guys from these three countries who are primarily, so to say, let's say victims, for the want of better words, of this policy direction, will not stop bringing their goods into the U.S. However, they will also ensure that they factor in that difference, and the everyday American will pay. And
the consumers are the ones
exactly
to really feel it. But
yes,
it is. I mean, on the lighter note, someone said if America are cutting costs, in terms of you see them pulling out from USAID, the foreign aid, I said no. I mean, we cannot continue to
help yourselves.
Help yourself. So if America are cutting costs, how much more Nigeria? How much more us? We have nothing. We're still, the cost of running government is still on the high side. Senators are still taking more, governors are still borrowing and mismanaging the location that is to their state. So it gets to the point where we need to also ask questions that, there's also a time for us to look at. Can we manage what we have? Because sometimes someone said, it's not because we do not have the resources, but the issue is management. So if Donald Trump is coming with that agenda to look, we've been spending more. We've been doing all of that, giving out of foreign aids without really prioritizing, looking at how sustainable this and can go and the impact on the economy. So can Nigeria also begin to look at the cost of governance in the country, expenses, running of a democracy? It's still a concern because even at the end of the day, what we have has not properly been utilized. I think people, even investors, might not be able to come in. Someone was saying, in the power sector, they need more funding, they need more investors and all of that. But investors can only come in when they know that, whatever they are bringing in is safe. They also know that there is a return of investment, there's a sustainability of the sector as well. It's not a situation where they will invest and at the end of the day, there's always a mismanagement. It gets to the point of questioning what we can do as a country in tackling our problem, just as Donald Trump is speaking very loudly in the world.
You see, I think that will fail us to look at the Donald Trump factor or phenomenon, if you like, and then how that pans out to the rest of the world. But you see, they say justice, they say charity begins at home and justice from the next door. I think all of this should, in addition to the experiences we have had in recent history, all right, become basis for us to rethink. There's something called comparative advantage in economics. It's basic economics, all right? At this point, Nigeria should be asking, what is our comparative advantage? On the day he was sworn in, on the 20th of January, Trump never missed words. He said, look, we're not just going to drill oil to use or to consume back at home in the U.S., we're going to drill to export. So I'll be surprised by the time we start buying oil from the U.S. And he says, drill, baby, drill. In other words, we're going to drill to the last drop of crude. It doesn't need to make sense to you. It's a policy direction. It's a resolve by the U.S. government under the leadership of President Trump. So back at home, for example, what are we doing with cocoa? What are we doing with coal? Up until today, we're still having the conversation around how is our mineral, our solid mineral, or if you like, yes, the bunch of our solid minerals managed in this country. We're still having the back and forth about it. Nobody can give you numbers specifically about what we're doing with even crude. Today they say, no, we are doing 1.3 million barrels per day. Tomorrow they say, no, it has dropped on account of insecurity, vandalism, blah, 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 to 850 million barrels per day. So you don't have those numbers. And everybody's dragging NNPC left, right, and center to say, come and tell us what has happened with the volume of oil, crude that we producing. Nobody can give you the numbers. How much are we making? Nobody can tell you about that. There's oil theft. One time in 2023, the NSA himself, Nuri Badu, told us that, look, a minimum of 400,000 barrels of crude is stolen every day. Every day, 400,000 times 30 days in a month, times 365 days in a year. Let's even assume oil sells, crude sells for $50 per barrel at the international market. Do the math. Your brain will practically freeze from what the outcome, the bottom line will be. So it means we have not told ourselves the truth. Imagine the immediate past governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, had even said, under the leadership of the APC, that the NNPC is one of the most opaque organizations, public entities in this country, because at that point we were told that for years their books had not been looked at. Recently they just released what is called some audited accounts of a range of years, but the question is that even updated? Is it even up to date? On the final notes, a senior lawyer, Olisa Agbakoba, came out sometime late last year and he said, look, for us to get it right, since we depend on oil and now we can't lie to ourselves anymore about that, why don't you rethink the NNPC? Is it enough for you to have told us some years ago that you unbundled it, it now has several agencies, and the NMDPRA, NUPROC, and blah, 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 blah. He says, from his own estimation, follow the Aramco or Saudi Arabia model to help deal with the teething problems that you have in the sector. And he says, for example, look at what's happening in Nigeria. The international oil companies, the IOCs, they exploit the whole process. We're still talking about cleanup of Ogoni land. It has even become a political subject.
I mean, a big elephant in the room has to do with the fact that Nigeria can always solve the problem. Until, as you said, or to begin to tell ourselves the truth. That's when we can always find our way out of the situation, because we can only be the one to address our situation. We may not necessarily have to wait for the rest of the world to come into look at what we have, mismanagement of resources what we have. But at the end of the day, the people are really watching and also counting to know that their expectation from government, the essence of having government was to provide dividends of democracy, was also make life better, manage the resources for the common good of everyone, and not really for the few persons. Just as Adam Oshimele said, look, some cartel, in the mineral resources of this country,
some retired general,
allegedly. Anyways, but it gets to the point where we need to have the concern that there's a need to start looking inward in developing this country. A lot of corruption over the years cannot help us to grow. We cannot sustain more on the people taken out of the country. Let's also look at what can we add to the country? What can we also bring in to help Nigeria out of the situation that we have? But anyways, the concern and the conversation will always be on the high side. Yeah, but let's get to go on a very quick break, everyone. And once we return from the break, we'll be looking at the national dailies for you this morning. You stay with us on the program.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of us.
Welcome back. Many thanks for staying with us. And now we get to the national dailies. Let's look at Daily Trust for you this morning. On the front page of Daily Trust newspaper, Obasani, El-Rufai, differ over Tinubu. That you can find on page 5 of the Daily Trust, concern about former governor of Kaduna State and current governor Obasani, in respect to the president Tinubu's policies. We also have a northern state to experience delayed rainfall. That's coming from Keyamo. On the page 7 of Daily Trust, we have motorists to pay 500 naira, 1,600 naira toll fee on Abuja-Makurdi highway. Gunmen abducts 10 passengers in Ondo. 165 illegal immigrants arrested in Kebbi. Teachers dismissed for impregnating student Ikere. Also have a red summon FCT director over land racketeering. These are the few headlines we have for you from the Daily Trust newspaper. As we now move over to the Nation paper.
All right, let's turn to the Nation newspaper for you. We'll begin with the headlines above the nameplates of it. Top left corner with a picture of Festus Keyamo, SAN, Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development. Here it says NIMET alerts Lagos, Ogun, Delta Rivers on mid-year flood. That was a clarion call to governors of these states to brace up. Clearing agents reject 4% levy on imported cargoes by customs. SEC regulates capital markets with technology. UNICEF to military. Include protocol in training curriculum. And then we come down a little just beneath the Nation newspaper name mast this morning. 7 travelers abducted in Ondo. You find those very disturbing details on page 5 of today's edition of the Nation newspaper. Okpebholo declares war on criminals in Edo. And then the Star headline reads, tolling of highways begins. Umahi generated revenue for maintenance. Payment kicks off on Abuja-Makurdi Road. Again, this is going to be another talking point that will likely lead to, division among stakeholders. AFEC approves 758 billion naira for pension arrears. That headline has one rider accompanying it. 30 million euro loan for student housing scheme. What more do we have here today? Here it says First Lady leaves victims of Niger tanker explosion with 100 million naira. We understand that the First Lady has visited Niger State, where she also met with two former military heads of states, General Babangida and, of course, General Abubakar. There in Niger State. By this time, she's doing something more humanitarian while spending time in Niger State, raising 100 million naira for victims of tanker explosion that happened in that state. Well, those are the headlines for you from the Nation newspaper. Let's flip over to today's issue of the Punch newspaper.
And on the front page of the Punch newspaper, marketers, the big story, marketers may dump NNPCL as price war with Dangote rages. Rather says dealers adopt MR and Mrs. logo to assess cheaper Dangote petrol, consider NNPCL franchise suspension. That's on the big story right there on the Punch. Tax reform, reps set for fresh debate, hold closed door sessions. You can find that story on page 2 of the Punch. PDP Secretary Wike Kam writes the Supreme Court ahead of BOT meeting. Also have Lagos Assembly may write Tinubu over Obasa. And that is coming from GAC on page 22 of the Punch newspaper. Our government releases power tariff hike guidelines for this cause. DR Congo soldiers, rebel clash vets toll hit over 900. Gunmen kidnapped 7 Ondo travelers, 27 suspects arrested. Police arrange suspended Ogun monarch hunt accomplices. That's on page 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. We also have a death toll rises to 15 in a Boy community headsman killings that you can find on page 5 of the Punch newspaper. We now move to the Vanguard for you.
All right, let's see what we have from the Vanguard newspaper this morning real quick. First one here, let's see with the big story. It says, alarm as cartels target teenage girls for opium harvesting. This is quite alarming indeed. But then you have about half a dozen riders with that headline. Outlines of the nefarious lucrative trade in Nigeria. How young girls are snared into donating eggs. International Federation of Fertility Societies rail against practice. Victims narrate ordeal. Police bungle reported cases. NAPTIP canvasses enlightenment campaigns in schools. Others. This is quite alarming. I mean, the issue of organ harvesting. We see what the UK has done lately with even 2 Nigerians, for example. And it's time we started getting serious about these issues because, I mean, abuse of human rights can be worse than this. All right, let's take it up a little higher. Top left corner of the Vanguard front page this morning. Lagos Assembly crisis, bids to oust Obasa's successor hit brick wall. The writer tells us GAC briefs Tinubu. I never said Tinubu, Akume, Kalu were corrupt when I was EFCC chairman. That's Ribadu talking. Well, as I say, the internet doesn't forget. Let's also put in perspective that Malam Nuhu Ribadu is the pioneer chairman of the country's leading anti-graft agency. That's the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. There are now people saying that when you were the chairman of the commission, of course, it was a different ballgame at the time. Obasanjo was president. It was the PDP holding sway. You had said X, Y, Z. And it is several years down the line now. Some of those videos are popping up. Some of those clips from newspaper pages with direct speeches are also flooding the internet. And the man is fighting for his life. The man I was speaking is trying to debunk all of these now. So
it's very common with our leaders.
Right. When you're on one side, you speak against the other side.
Give it 5 or 6 or 10 years from now. Some of the today definitely will be the other side.
All right, let's see more headlines for you quickly. El-Rufai slams Governor Sani over sycophantic support for Tinubu. That's a political, godfather of some kind, and his estranged political godson now having their own back and forth. FG to roll out 7 million smart meters in 2025. Well, 2025 has started. We're second month into the year. Let's keep it coming. Okay, let's turn to the right corner of the Vanguard newspaper today. NCAA gives Kenya Airways 48 hours to apologize for passengers' maltreatment. FG flags off tolling on federal highways. What's more, FG to take over incomplete Lagos-Ibadan expressway sections by April. That's a headline. It's credited to Minister of Works David Umahi. A bit of sports before we're done with the Vanguard. Iheanacho faces Borofans rejection. Well, we all get rejected at one point in time or another, but then we move over now to the Guardian newspaper, where Eddie can has those headlines for you.
A very interesting headlines here on the Guardian. As a big story, having the picture of the president as well as former governor of Ashirin, FG, NLD, and CMD hold as beaker over state of health sector and good rating. That's a very big story right there. And also have World Cancer Day. FG to explore health insurance for cancer. For all firms post 386 billion profits amid the uncertainty security concerns. You can find the story on page 6 here on the Guardian newspaper. And politically, APC Mo's indirect primary ahead of Anambra gubernatorial poll. You can find that on page 7 in respect to preparations towards Anambra gubernatorial election. A GAC meeting ends in deadlock as parties disagree on Obasa's fate. Page 5 of the Guardian, you can find that story as well. The FCC arranges 2 Chinese for alleged cyber fraud and orders. Interesting headline here. Senate threatens to arrest IGP, Customs, CG, FRC, NMPCL, CBN heads over audit snub. That story on page 6. Senate just resumed the plenary, and of course they took on matters regarding audit, proper audit submissions, and of course some heads of these government agencies were not present. These, of course, we also have the PFN declares national rebate, vows to expose corrupt leaders. A very interesting story you can find on page 20 of the Guardian newspaper. And of course, First Lady donates 100 million to Niger tanker explosion. Victims visit IBB Abdulsalami on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. These are the few headlines we have for you on the Guardian. You can definitely get the paper to have more details on it. We now turn attention to the Nigerian Tribune for you this morning.
All right, let's go to the Tribune quickly. First, the star headline for you. FEC approves 758 billion naira to clear pension liabilities. That headline has got 4 riders with it. OK's 30 million euro concessional loan to support students' housing projects. 80 billion naira for reconstruction, expansion of Alau Dam in Borno. Of course, if you followed the news for the most part of last year, you would have seen the damage that was done to Maiduguri in particular and surrounding towns on account of the flooding that happened there. So the federal government is moving quickly to make these substantial investments by way of expanding Alau Dam in Borno State, northeast Nigeria. What's more here, 126 billion naira for MRI CT scanners at OAU others. FG says US, UK patients now seek medical care in Nigeria. Well, that sounds like big news and, well, something we should be applauding. Brain drain, that's a kicker for you this morning. Nigerian doctors earn less than cleaners abroad. Afe Babalola. Brain drain, Nigerian doctors earn less than cleaners abroad. Police arraign suspended Ogun traditional ruler over assaults, threat to life. The writer tells us court grants him bail. Gunmen attack bus, abduct travelers in Ondo. Obership crisis. Adeleke only followed process meant on ground. Osun government. What are the writers saying? Releases details on Esa Okedo Ayegunle communal crisis. Says 2005 documents affirms Owa Obokun as prescribed authority over Edo Ayegunle. Well, that matter now has become a subject of litigation. Meanwhile, let's up our anthem a little by looking at 3 headlines about the nameplates of the Nigerian Tribune today. Top right corner first, it says, Nigeria to experience severe dry spell over 27 to 40 days in some areas. That's credited to the federal government. The writer here says, Delta, Bayelsa, Oyo, Ogun, Osun, Lagos, 7 other states to witness early rain. That's according to NIMET. Use criticism against Nigeria to prioritize development. Obi, that's Peter Obi, they're speaking. It says 29 states removed speakers in 26 years. 29 states removed speakers in 26 years. I think we need to dwell on this for a minute. The most recent removal instance that we have, Edikan, is Lagos State. We hear just yesterday, for example, there was another move to unseat the current speaker. It's there. Again, that one hit brick walls. GAC now has, that was the Governor Advisory Council has gone ahead to brief the president about the situation on the ground in Lagos State and all of that. But we've seen speakers removed from one state to another across this country. And today, the Nigerian Tribune is saying that across 29 states, there have been speakers removed. I mean, in 26 years. Yes. Of course, we also had a series in Edo State a few years ago under former Governor Adams Oshiomhole. All right, so we've had that happen across states, but Nigerians and citizens across these specific states are more concerned about the rationale, the motive behind removing the speakers in the first instance.
You can always trace the motive towards how did the speaker emerge
in the first instance.
In the first instance, because all of this policy is not just about you became speaker. How did you how were you nominated? How were you presented and voted in to be the speaker of the house? So we see that we put a searchlight to the state. It's what we have there as a legislature is totally worrisome. We've seen governors and party chairmen of the ruling political party in the state, leading to know who become the speaker. People who are not even members of the House of Assembly are the ones who determine, this is a speaker, and this is a clerk, this is a deputy speaker. So at the end of the day, it just set of people who have been pushing, just to hold brief for the governor, because that's practically what is happening. Sometimes what governor is his requests are being granted automatically. The approvals are given without, more scrutinization. Commissioners of the ministries are having their own way, and all of that. So they're in the same bed, with the executive automatically. So at that moment, the executive, when you fall out from disagreement, because some people greed will always set in. This one will always want to, look, you have to give legislators this, you have to do this. So at the moment, or if you want to contest for governor as well, it also looks politically as well. So they look, you also have a political ambition. So they try to do all of those drama just to be able to set you up. So at the end of the day, it gets to the horse for us to look at. If we have 26 speakers that have been impeached for over 26 years, let's pay attention to the recruitment process. How the speakers have been elected until we have the legislature, properly independent at the state. That's where we can always have, a functional and a strong, viable system. Because without that, if the governors are played a role for you to emerge, that means the governor can always play a role, for you to be removed.
Exactly.
So it's a giving out situation.
I think you're just making super sense with this your conversation, because if you like the idea of the governor anointing you as a say in political space as a speaker, why do you have a problem with him trying to boss you around?
Exactly.
He will pays the piper.
The terms.
Yes. So it's just going to stay that way going forward. All right, let's turn to the Nigerian News Direct now for you.
Right here on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct paper, big story right there. FEC, that is the Federal Executive Council, approved 758 billion naira bond to settle pension backlog. That you can find on page 4 of the Nigerian News Direct. We also have Jigawa Governor Ari signed MOU to generate 1,000 megawatt power, develop other renewable energy projects. A Kaduna Disco workers strike and substitute as a residents lament prolonged blackout. That's on page 22 of the Nigerian News Direct as well. SROK crisis. Governor Adeleke visit crisis scene, vows to bring culprits to justice. That you can find on page 25. Immigration to launch a contactless passport solution in Europe by February 7th. We also have a couple of other stories right there on the Nigerian News Direct. But these are just the strong points right there and the headlines we have for you as we now turn our attention to the Daily Independent for more stories.
All right, let's go right to it, everyone. Above the name mast, first here, top left corner, 2 headlines actually. The first one says Tinubu approves reconstruction of Alao Dam in Brno at 80 billion naira. One headline, one rider with that headline there. Declines assent to Federal University of Education Newman bill. That's supposed to, was proposed for somewhere in Adamawa, but the president has declined assenting to it. However, President Bola Tinubu has assented to the bill establishing the North Central Development Commission, which had also been a question of controversy up until now. A Senate moves against IGP, FIRS, NNPCL, CBN, others. A writer tells us may issue arrest warrants, or back to this issuance of arrest warrants. This is a bit disturbing, Michael, because, when you look at the way Nigeria works, it's been like that for, well, maybe upwards of 2 decades now, since we returned to democracy in 1999. The National Assembly, today is the Senate, tomorrow is the House of Representatives. There are various committees. They are inviting DGs and executive secretaries and ministers and all of these heads of agencies of government to come give accounts or to come address some gray areas regarding how they are managing their respective entities. And for some reason, they just don't come. Sometimes they even, well, maybe if you like, undermine or slight the National Assembly by sending some subordinates to come and represent them. Of course, in fairness to some of these executives, all right, they've had legitimate reasons to not be available. Some of them out of town, some of them for health, on health grounds, some of them official assignments, sometimes directly saddled by the presidents and things like that. But this culture has become a bit toxic over time, where, for example, we're reading in the news in 2025 that the Senate may issue warrants of arrest against the CBN governor, the executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, including the Inspector General of Police.
It's just laughable because it was just, when Trump had nominated some of his executive members, they appeared before the Senate. The tough questions were asked. The opposition took the opportunity to engage them very publicly. Who are those that are supposed to speak? Is it not the opposition that is the National Assembly from the House of Reps? If the principal officers from the ruling party cannot really have anything to do, can't the opposition voices, the members of the House of Reps and the Senate step in to engage them? Let Nigerians understand the impact of why we have, representatives there. The media will not always do all of the talking. If we have people at the National Assembly who owes the responsibility to engage the MDS as well. So, but in more concern, in a better climate, we want not to see this kind of drama. Making instances of going for some foreign trips and all of that. This is what the National Assembly have written to you. You are well informed. You know that it's your responsibility. It's your responsibility. It is part of your requirement. It is what makes you to be in that office. Right. If you cannot give an account, why being in the public office? Because what you're doing is serving the people, and the people expect to get the report. Come and give us the account of stewardship. What have you done? What have been allocated to you? What is the problem? From that interaction, that's when you can even say, oh, look, with what was allocated to me, it wasn't enough for me to manage, so I probably need more funding. Come and tell us that language, in which INEC recently have also raised that they need more funding for the election. So at the end of the day, we are in a situation where people are not really, we don't hold people accountable. And who are those who hold them accountable? The National Assembly has a job to do. Oversight, it's not just about, inviting them to come to the National Assembly. Are you also making some oversight visits to some of these MDS to know what they're also doing? Or this is a report at that instance. By that way, people will sit up from their job.
All right, great. Well said. Let's return to the Daily Independent now. The star headline here with the kicker: Agriculture says Tinubu has taken us back to what we know how to do best. That's credited to the governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo. Two riders with the headline. The first one tells us, dedicates Independence Award to Kogi people. State has spent over 9 billion naira in agriculture. That's Fanwo, of course, Kingsley Fanwo, the Commissioner for Information in Kogi State. As we take it a little further down now, FG to raise 758 billion naira bond to clear backlog of pension liabilities. And then the writer says to us, approves 30 million euro concessional financing from FDA. That takes us to the headlines by the left end of the front page of the Daily Independent today. Economic reforms working 2025 to consolidate on all programs, says Minister. Read up those details on page 29 of the Daily Independent. Delegates buying. INEC calls for CSO's oversight in party primaries. I think we can dwell on this for a minute. I mean, you were at the INEC office yesterday, and of course, the Independent National Electoral Commission, with its chairman, Professor Yakubu, present, interacted and interfaced with leaders of civil society organizations in the country. How do you deal with delegate buying within political parties? I mean, these are internal problems. These have become phenomena of some kind over time. So what were your thoughts as you listened to these critical stakeholders interact?
I mean, it was aware of shifting responsibilities to civil society, because as far as we understand, INEC, holds the responsibility to checkmate the political parties. Even post-election issues and aftermath of election, engage and know what is happening within the political parties. Primaries has been a very big issue in this country, because at the end of the day, whosoever the party presents is what is on the ballot at the end of the day. So it gets to question, how is the process done? What we see in the political parties is that people just with money can always buy delegates, and at the end of the day, you win election. So sometimes we are running to look at vote buying, during election. We've not put a searchlight as well towards vote buying, I mean, towards delegate buying as well, during the primary. So we must begin to also understand that these transactions are ongoing. So how do we address that? Can the civil society have the capacity to do that? No. So look at the security agencies. Are they really doing their job? INEC also being involved, because some people have argued INEC shouldn't be too involved in political affairs or political parties. Their internal issues. Their internal issue. They should just be conducting election and all of that. Yes, okay. If that is the case, then they should create another agency to probably monitor, because what happens is that there are a lot of injustices, undemocratic principles and practices within the political parties that sometimes, if internal democracy does not work, we cannot really have a better democracy. Look at, laws and constitution of the party. Some people are violating the laws of the party, doing A instead of doing B and all of that. So from all of those instances, it gives a rising impact on the election, because people run to court for primaries aftermath of a primaries election just because, I won. There was no election held. Sometimes delegate elections are held in the government house in some state. In some special venue, away from where it ought to be. But INEC has the responsibility to be present, during primaries, to know what is happening. The security agencies has a role to be there, to know. Was an exchange of money, to buy delegates?
Was the process transactional?
Was it transactional? Was it transparent? So these are a question. But what we see is that parties just conduct the election and present them to INEC, and then INEC, present it to Nigeria. And sometimes that really does not speak well, because what party present also have aware of the leaders, the kind of leaders we have at the end of the day. So the process should be gotten, very right.
Brilliantly said. All right, so let's go tie it up quickly. This will be our last paper, by the way. Says gunmen strike again in Ondo, abducts 10 travelers. Quite a sad story there, with details awaiting you on page 6 of the Daily Independent newspaper. Motorists to pay maximum of 1,600 as FG commences toll collection on Abuja Makurdi Road. The writer says orders to be commissioned soon in 6 geopolitical zones. CDS advocates non-kinetic approach in achieving 2.5 million barrels per day crude production target. Meets NSA, IOC's NNPCL, oil producing states orders.
A lot of concerns right there. And of course, we'll continue to have that more interaction because from what we have on the papers, the stories are very interesting ones, and of course, we can't really exhaust all of that conversation. But anyways, I will get to go on a very quick break, everyone, and at the top of the hour, we'll be bringing to you the AM News for you to have more details, even the news we have here on the papers. Just stay with us. We'll be right back.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is
Hello and welcome to Air News here on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I'm Deacon Michael. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276, free to air on Nicomsat. Chairman of Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has urged members of civil society to show more interest in monitoring primary elections of political parties, emphasizing the need for continued collaboration to ensure a credible and transparent electoral process in the country. Professor Yakubu said these are the Commission's first regular consultative meeting with civil society organization at its headquarters in Abuja. A correspondent have the details.
Professor Yakubu highlighted the importance of monitoring report of civil society in which actionable recommendations have been drawn to improve the subsequent exercises.
To be as interested in party primaries as you are actively engaged in the monitoring of the secondary election conducted by INEC. After all, only the candidates nominated by the political parties are placed on the ballot for citizens to vote for on election day. From their monitoring reports as accredited election observers, you have consistently expressed concern over vote buying at polling units during elections.
INEC chairman also provided an update on the upcoming Anambra State governorship elections scheduled for November 8, 2025. He mentioned that the commission had released a timetable for the election in October 2024, noting that party primaries will begin on March 20, 2025 to conclude on April 10, 2025.
As required by law, the notice of election was published on 13th November 2024. That is 360 days before the date fixed for the election, scheduled to hold on the 8th of November 2025. The next activity is the conduct of party primaries, which begins next month. All political parties interested in fielding candidates for the election shall commence their primaries on 20th March 2025 and end 3 weeks later on 10th April 2025. The Commission's preparations for the election is an item on the agenda for this meeting.
In his response, Ezewa Huagu of Partners for Electoral Reforms, representing civil society organizations, decried the participation of party leaders in vote buying during elections, a practice he started undermines the legitimacy of elections, and called on security agencies and the media to intensify efforts to curtail the menace.
Of vote buying, at the general elections, and that's perpetuated by the politicians, will need the collective effort of not just civil society, but the security agencies and the media. And we will, as we have already started doing, continue to beam searchlights on the activities of politicians, their political parties, and their candidates in any elections. We want to implore INEC to, if possible, ensure that the level of preparedness that was put into organizing the Ondo election, that will up the ante for Anambra.
In fulfilling their responsibilities, the Commission also hinted at schedule of activities for the area council election in the Federal Capital Territory, in which election will be conducted on Saturday, 21st February 2026. Edika Michael reporting for Global TV News.
President Bola Tinubu has signed into law the bill establishing the North Central Development Commission. President of the Senate, Councilor Papio, announced the signing of the bill during a session in the Senate chamber, stating that the President has also assented to North Central Development Commission Establishment Bill 2024 in order to bring development to the grassroots. The federal government has unveiled the National Broadband Alliance, a new initiative aimed at transforming the nation's digital infrastructure and boosting connectivity across the country. The initiative was unveiled in Lagos by the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, who was represented by the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigeria Communications Commission, Aminu Maida. In his address, Tijani said that National Broadband Alliance will significantly enhance the broadband penetration, which has grown from just 6% in 2015 to approximately 42% as of October 2024. Court has acquitted Fani Kayode of forgery case. The Special Offences Court sitting in Ikeja, Lagos, acquitted and discharged former Minister of Aviation Femi Kayode of medical forgery charges brought against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Justice Olubumi, while delivering a ruling on a no-case submission filed by Fani Kayode's counsel, held that the prosecution failed to establish a premier falsity case against him. As a result, the court ruled that the former minister had no case to answer regarding the allegations. On turn attention to Benue State, has the governor has signed a memorandum of understanding with Zebra Crop Bank to address the challenges associated with the post-harvest losses. Our correspondent Felicity Ndari reports that the initiative is to provide the needed infrastructure for storage and processing of agro products.
We are still going to have technical sessions that will deepen conversation about the engagement between Zebra House and Benue State government and other agencies of the Ministry of Agriculture.
The Memorandum of Understanding between Benue State Government and the private investor is to tackle post-harvest losses by construction of storage and processing facilities for smallholder farmers in farming communities, as well as providing access to market and credit facilities. Director General of Bureau for International Cooperation and Development, Leo Angelio Viashma, explained that the partnership is a product of due process and diligence that aligns with the present administration's policy to adequately manage pre- and post-harvest losses.
Aligns 100% with His Excellency's policy. One, of ensuring that we manage post-harvest loss, on ensuring adequate storage facilities for our crops and yield, of ensuring that we strengthen government systems and government organizations that have to do with agriculture, and ensuring that there's capacity being built for our civil servants and, of course, one of the biggest components of agriculture, which is extension workers. This project deals with all of that.
Chief Executive Officer of Zebra Crop Bank, Buffy Okeke Ojiodu, said the initiative will be implemented within 5 years.
We provide doorstep access to sales, storage services for the farmers, access to credit using the commodities as collateral, and price transparency. And we value add by doing primary processing at low cost to the farmers as well.
The Memorandum of Understanding, according to the bank's Chief Executive Officer, is expected to cost over $15 million. In Makurdi, Felicity Ndere, reporting for Global TV.
On to Imo State, as Governor Hope Uzodimma has inaugurated the Governing Council of University of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, Owagu, at a ceremony held at the Government House, Owerri. The event was attended by key stakeholders in the education and agricultural sectors, highlighting the state's commitment to advancing both fields. Our correspondent Amar Chibe was there.
His address, Governor Uzodimma charged the council to prioritize the dream of mechanizing agriculture in Imo State. He stressed the importance of teamwork and urged the members to collaborate closely in order to achieve tangible results for the development of the state's agricultural sector. The governor also highlighted his administration's zero tolerance for corruption.
All of you are choosing based on your proven integrity. That also should reflect in the performance of your duties. This administration has zero tolerance for corruption. I want to assure you that I will do all that is required for the success of your assignment. This university is very pivotal in our quest for food security.
Urging the council to ensure that the university contributes to the advancement of both education and agriculture in the state.
You have the responsibility to translate this our vision of mechanized agriculture into reality. I expect you therefore to formulate policies that are tailored towards achieving that objective. I expect you to innovate ways of improving the academic and practical knowledge of students in agriculture.
Speaking on behalf of the other council members, Chairman of the council, Professor Nelson Aleno, assured the governor that they would work with dedication and commitment to achieve the goals set for them.
On behalf of these excellent men and women that are put together with me, this council, we want to give you our confidence. We want to assure you that this honor bestowed on us today will be something that the state will be happy about.
The inauguration of the Governing Council is seen as a crucial step in advancing both higher education and agricultural development in Imo State. In Owerri, Amara Chibe reporting for Global TV News.
Around 7 years after the alleged displacement of over 200,000 Basa indigents by the Ebura ethnic group in the total local government area of Nasarawa State, the natives are set to return to their ancestral homes on February 10. The acting chairman of Basa Youth for Peace Coalition Forum, Joshua Gomina, discloses while speaking with journalists. The development followed several peace meetings organized by the state government and heads of security agencies in the state. Kebbi State government has announced the rescheduling of 61st Argungu International Fishing and Cultural Festival to 2026. Speaking at the press briefing, the Deputy Governor of Kebbi State and Chairman of the Festival Main Committee, Senator Omar Argungu, said that the decision was reached after consultations with the Argungu Emirate Council. He explained how the rescheduling was necessary to facilitate comprehensive renovation works on the festival venues, ensuring they meet standards and are structurally sound. The Federal High Court in Abuja has ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission to pay 1.12 billion naira in compensation to the family of one Mike Madu, killed by an INEC driver in Imo State. Justice Nyako in the judgment ordered that the commission to pay their damages with 10% interest per annum from the date of judgment until the final or full payment is made. In addition, the judge ordered INEC, its chairman, Professor Yakubu Mahmoud, and ordered defendant to send a letter of condolence to the late Madu's family. Ogun State Police Command arranged the suspended Oloride Ansemolo for assaulting a 73-year-old Chief Abraham Arola. Agonjabi was arraigned on 3 counts bordering on conspiracy, assault, and conduct likely to cause breach of peace. The Nigeria Police Force spokesman Olumiwa confirmed this in a statement. And on to Ebonyi State, House Governor Francis Nwifuru has urged the people of Amagu Village in Kalala, Isiolu, local government area of the state to remain calm after a suspected gunman's attack. Nwifuru made the plea in a statement by his Chief Press Secretary Mandozo in Abakaliki. The governor, while condemning the attack, described it as a flagrant disregard to the sanctity of human life. It was reported that the attack led to the death of 10 persons and destruction of houses and other property worth millions of naira. Watching the live broadcast of AM News here on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. When AM News returns, China retaliates in trade war, imposes tariff on the U.S. energy on autos. We shall bring you those details as well as foreign and sports stories right after this break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. How many thanks for staying with us? Let's now turn attention to business. The Nigeria Labour Congress has suspended its planned nationwide protest against the recent 50% hike in telecom tariff approved by the federal government. The Labour Union aborted the planned rally scheduled for Tuesday following a meeting with government representatives at the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation in Abuja. The telecom regulator of the Nigeria Communication Commission had defended a 50% tariff increase, citing rising operational costs driven by inflation, foreign fluctuations, and high energy expenses. Meanwhile, the federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to sound fiscal management and economic sustainability by implementing the revised cash management policy and bottom-up cash planning protocols. A press statement by the Director of Information and Public Relations at the Federal Ministry of Finance, Mohammed Manga, says the Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Darius Uzoka, made this known at the stakeholders review meeting on implementing the policy here in Abuja. And on to beyond the shores of Nigeria, Asian equities rose with Mexican peso and Canadian dollar after Donald Trump said he will delay the imposition of stiff tariff on imports from the United States neighbors, suiting trade war worries for now. And Tokyo, Manila, Mumbai, and Wellington and Taipei were also in the green. And that's Singapore has edged down. However, early area was tempered somewhat after China announced levies on some imports of United States goods, and as Washington's measures kick in, with no news that the two sides had reached an agreement to pause. Now, China says it will impose tariff on imports of United States energy vehicles and equipment, firing a return salvo in an escalating trade war between the world's two biggest economies. United States President Donald Trump on Saturday announced sweeping measures against major trade partners Canada and Mexico, with goods from China hit with additional 10% tariff on top of the duties they already endure. And a minute after they came into effect, Beijing unveiled levies of 15% on imports of coal and liquefied natural gas from the United States. At the same time, crude oil, agricultural machinery, big engine vehicles, and picked-up trucks face 10% duties. And on the phone scene, a Tokyo court has upheld a suspended 6-month sentence for former Nissan executive Greg Kelly, a one-time head of the firm's fugitive ex-CEO Carlos Ghosn. Both prosecutors and Kelly's 68-year-old American charged with helping Ghosn attempt to conceal income and question the 2022 verdict, but the Tokyo High Court dismissed the appeals. Above on the phone scene, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has met with President Donald Trump, as Israel and Hamas say they are ready for negotiation on a new phase in their fragile. Now, Netanyahu, the first foreign leader to visit the White House since Trump returned to power last month, discussed the truce future and efforts to end the Gaza war. Now, hours before the meeting, Netanyahu's office said that Israel will send a delegation to the Qatari capital Doha later the week for negotiations. United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio says El Salvador has offered to take in those it termed dangerous criminals held in American jails, including those with U.S. citizenship. After meeting President Nayib Bukele on the visit to the Central American country, Rubio said the United States is profoundly grateful, noting that no country has ever made an offer of friendship such as these. Rubio said El Salvador would also accept for deportation migrants of any nationality who are criminals and in the U.S. unlawfully. And out to sport, Carlo Ancelotti said that Kylian Mbappe will miss Real Madrid's upcoming Copa the Rey quarterfinal against the Leganés with a bruised calf and a back. These clubs complained about the Spanish refereeing. Our French striker Mbappe was hacked down by ex-Spaniards Carlos Romero during their 1-0 La Liga defeat on the Saturday, within the defender avoiding a red card and going on to score the winning goal against the league leaders. About sport, Lobby Stars, who recently migrated from Lafayette Township Stadium to Abubakar Tafawa Balewa Stadium, Bauchi, has opened their newly adopted home ground with a 0-1 loss to Eyimba. And for close to 2 years now, Lobby Stars have continued to move from one place to another in search of an alternative home ground following the prolonged renovation work on the traditional home ground, the Apeyaku Stadium, Makurdi. Unfortunately, as the Benue State government and the contractor of the sport facility construction company continue to trade blames over the slow pace of the stadium, Lobby Stars have remained homeless. As a package here on AM News, coming to you live from the nation's capital. We on DSV channel 365 and start times on 276 free to air on Nikon sets. Can follow us on our social media platform at Global TV NG. On behalf of the entire production team, we say thank you for joining us on air. On 8:30, we'll turn our back to the Global Morning. Do stay with us on the program. We'll be right back.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.